Betsy Wheaton, a 17-year-old autistic girl, began using FC at school in 1992. One day, using a letterboard, Betsy and her facilitator wrote that everybody in her family, her father, mother, grandparents, and brother, were sexually abusing her. Betsy and her brother were immediately put in foster care while the case was investigated. The court appointed a local attorney, Phil Worden, as Betsy's legal guardian. Worden realized that this was more difficult than the usual abuse case. Before considering whether the allegations were true, the court had to decide a more fundamental question. Was Betsy the author of the allegations, or had they come from her facilitator?
I was most worried in my heart about were we going to do justice in this case. If the communications were real and she was being abused, the idea that on a legal technicality we might send the children back would be just absolutely horrible. On the other hand, if these were not real communications, the idea that all this would happen to these family and these children on a bogus idea was also unacceptable. So to my mind, the stakes were extremely high on both sides, and it was very important that we reach a quality decision based on the truth. And so what I was looking for was a clean, simple, and fairly quick way to just solve that one narrow question. Were these communications coming from the children?
All the parties agreed to invite an expert in communication to come and assess Betsy. They chose Dr. Howard Shane from the Boston Children's Hospital.
This is Dr. Shane. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Okay, folks, what I'm going to be doing now...
Shane had devised a double-blind test like this to objectively determine who was authoring the messages, Betsy or the facilitator who transcribed the allegations. He showed both a series of pictures and asked them to type what they saw.
Betsy, show you looking at.
When both Betsy and her facilitator saw a picture of a key, the letters K-E-Y were typed. But Shane wanted to discover what happened if each saw a different picture. When Betsy saw a cup, she didn't type cup, she typed hat, what the facilitator saw.
Here we go. Now take a look at this one. I want you to tell me what you see, okay?
When Betsy was shown a picture of a dog, she didn't type dog, but sneakers, what the facilitator saw.
Okay, want to take a look at that one?
When Betsy was shown a boat, she didn't
Betsy,
type boat, but sandwich, what the facilitator saw.
Okay, here's the next one.
It was just devastating to watch because what you saw was the words being typed out were the words the facilitator had seen. And it was just so clear and so unmistakable. I was sitting there watching this and saying, my God, it's really true. This stuff is bogus.
What I found was that whenever the pictures were different, I always received the typed message that was seen by the facilitator. So that was pretty strong evidence that not only was Betsy not communicating, but the messages were being absolutely, totally directed and authored by the facilitator. Come on, Betsy.
Shane then tried a message passing test. He took Betsy out into the corridor and showed her an object out of sight of her facilitator.
Come on. Betsy, now I'm going to show you something. Take a look at this. You take this. Now, what is that? Give it back to me. We're going to back in. I want you to tell everybody what I showed you. When we went back into the room, she was unable to type the word key. I then took another key out of my pocket and said, with the facilitator present, what is this? And she immediately typed key. So again, it suggests that when the facilitator is aware of the information, we get the answer. But when the facilitator is unaware of the information, we don't get an answer.
The only logical conclusion of the test was that the terrible accusations had been authored not by Betsy, but by her facilitator. The Wheatons are now reunited. The facilitator, devastated by the test results, stopped using facilitated communication and persuaded Betsy's school to stop using it as well.